5 curses that follow a narcissist after they destroy a good soul. The destruction of a good soul doesn't go unpunished. There is a deep justice woven into the universe, an invisible, unshakable law that makes no exceptions. When someone sets out to destroy a good soul, they may think they've won. They may believe they've silenced the light, crushed the spirit, and buried the best of someone under manipulation and shame. But what they've really done is ignite a reckoning. A storm is coming, and it doesn't miss. You can't violate the sacred and walk away unscarred. You can't poison love and expect to stay nourished. Narcissists think they've outsmarted the game. They think because they discard you first, smear your name, and twist the truth that they're untouchable. But the universe doesn't play by their rules. There's a higher scoreboard, one that tracks integrity, intention, and impact, and when a narcissist breaks a good soul, that scoreboard starts bleeding red. They don't see it at first. Oh no, in the beginning, they feel powerful. Triumphant, they've won. You're in pieces, you're crying, you're questioning everything. And they're out there pretending to be the victim or already flaunting their new supply. But listen closely, because that moment of false victory, that's the peak of their power. It never gets better for them than right then. From that point on, everything begins to rot. The truth is, they didn't destroy a weakling. They tried to destroy a warrior in disguise. A heart that loved deeply, a soul that gave freely, a person who wanted nothing more than to lift them, to understand them, to hold them in a way no one else ever had. And that kind of soul isn't easy to find. It's rare, it's sacred, and when it's broken, it doesn't stay down. It rebuilds stronger, clearer, fiercer, but that rebuilding doesn't just affect you, it echoes. It creates a ripple that haunts the one who broke you. Because they didn't just lose you. They lost access to the part of themselves that only you ever reached. They can't replicate what you gave them, they can't replace it, and that realization creeps in slowly like smoke in a sealed room. It chokes them over time. See, the good soul doesn't stay shattered. The good soul learns, the good soul awakens, and when it does, it reclaims all the power it once gave away. But the narcissist, they lose something far more devastating. They lose access to light, to warmth, to the unconditional acceptance they never gave, but always expected. At first, they are too arrogant to notice. They surround themselves with distractions, new people, parties, validation, social media performances. They flood their senses with noise so they don't have to hear the silence. But silence has a way of sneaking in, and when it does, it whispers truth. It whispers regret. It whispers your name because you were the mirror that showed them what they could be. You were the healing they didn't understand, the peace they didn't know how to hold. And when they destroyed you, they didn't just discard a person. They severed a lifeline to their own humanity. And now they walk the earth searching for it in places that can never give it back. And that's when the real curse begins. The emptiness, the hollowness that no amount of supply can fill. They don't know why they're restless, why they feel lost, why nothing tastes sweet anymore. But deep down, their soul knows. Their spirit remembers. It remembers the energy it once bathed in, the love it once absorbed, the light it once devoured. But it can't go back because they didn't just leave, you outgrew them. You leveled up, and that puts you out of reach forever. That's the wound they can't bandage. That's the pain that grows with time. Because every day they see you rising, glowing, loving yourself, doing what they said you couldn't. They die a little more inside. They thought breaking you would be the end. They didn't realize it was your rebirth. And there is nothing more terrifying to a narcissist than watching someone they tried to destroy become unstoppable. That is the punishment, not lightning from the sky, not karma served on a silver platter. No, the punishment is knowing they had access to greatness and lost it forever. So when you think they got away with it, think again. They didn't walk away unpunished. They walked into a life sentence of knowing they messed up the best thing that ever happened to them. And no matter how many masks they wear, no matter how loud they laugh, that truth is louder. That truth follows them into every room, every relationship, every moment of silence. You didn't lose. You were never the broken one. You were the blessing they couldn't carry. You were the light they weren't ready for. And their life will never stop echoing with that absence. That's not just justice. That's divine. After a narcissist destroys a good soul, they go looking for a fix. Not healing, not reflection, a fix, because they never had the capacity to love. You were just a source of emotional supply, and once that supply is gone, they panic, but instead of looking within, they look outward. They chase new victims, new attention, new admiration. But here's the curse. They've already tasted the best, and nothing else compares. You see, you weren't just supply. You were real. You were present. You were love in its rarest form, consistent, selfless, unwavering. And narcissists don't realize it in the moment, but once they lose that, their world changes. It becomes a dark, desperate search for a feeling they didn't even know they needed until it was gone. So they keep chasing. Faster, harder, they swipe through faces, scroll through profiles, jump into new relationships like it's a sport. But no one else has your soul. No one else sees them like you did. No one else offers that deep, grounding energy that made their chaos feel like it made sense. And that absence, it gnaws at them. They tell themselves they're fine. They post about how happy they are. They use the next person like a painkiller. But it doesn't work, because painkillers numb. You don't heal with numbness. You heal by feeling, and narcissists can't stand to feel. So they keep taking hit after hit of attention, validation, drama. But it never lands, it never satisfies. That's because what they're really hungry for is you, your forgiveness, your energy, your patience, your belief in them. But they'll never admit that, because doing so would mean facing their guilt. And they'd rather burn in loneliness than humble themselves enough to say, I messed up something sacred. So the cycle continues. They become junkies for approval, addicts for admiration, and every new person they love bomb becomes more hollow than the last. Because they're not seeking connection, they're chasing distraction, a way to avoid the growing truth that they're empty inside. And no matter how many people they cycle through, no matter how many compliments they harvest, they still wake up at 2 a.m. with that cold feeling in their chest, that creeping void, that whisper that says, this isn't working. And that whisper becomes a scream they can't silence, because deep down they know they lost something priceless. And the tragic irony is, they didn't just lose it, they destroyed it, they drove it away, they mocked it, abused it, devalued it until it left, and now they'd give anything to feel even a sliver of what they once had. But you're gone, and what's gone is gone. That's the curse. They become slaves to a hunger that can't be fed. They build a life around proving they're happy without you, all while secretly checking your page, stalking your glow up, wondering how you look more alive now than you ever did with them. And that contrast is brutal. You're thriving, they're starving. They try to fake what you gave them. They rehearse it with others. They mimic the love you modeled, but it never clicks because you didn't operate from manipulation. You operated from truth. And truth has a frequency. Once someone's felt it, they can't settle for counterfeit again, and all they're left with are counterfeits, so they walk around with this constant ache, this dissatisfaction that follows them into every room. And no one around them understands why they're always on edge, why nothing excites them, why their eyes look so damn tired. It's because they've been feeding on scraps ever since they lost the feast that was you. That's not just karma, that's internal collapse. That's what happens when you make your soul dependent on stealing energy from others instead of generating it from within. They didn't know how to build their own light, so they consumed yours. And now they're lost in the dark. They thought you were replaceable, but you weren't just another body. You were a force, a frequency, a once in a lifetime presence, and now they're stuck with plastic, wishing for gold. They're chasing empty highs, and all they're doing is falling, and that fall, it doesn't end, because they can't land anywhere real again, not until they face themselves, Not until they deal with what they did to you, and most of them never will, so they'll keep running. Keep searching, keep spiraling, forever addicted to something they can never touch again. At first, the narcissist seems unstoppable. Charming, magnetic, they walk into a room and pull attention like gravity. They know exactly what to say, how to smile, how to play the part. To the untrained eye, they look like they have it all figured out. But here's the truth, the clock is always ticking. The mask doesn't stay on forever. And one by one, the people around them begin to see the cracks. Because no matter how perfect they pretend to be, there's something off, something artificial. It's in the way they talk over others, in the way they shift blame, in the way their stories don't add up. At first, it's subtle, but over time, that facade gets harder to hold up. The truth starts to leak out. See, you weren't the only one. You weren't the only soul they manipulated, twisted, used, and discarded. You were just the one who saw it clearest. But when you walked away, the show didn't stop, it just moved to a different stage, and eventually even the best performance wears thin. Narcissists underestimate the power of patterns. They think every person is a clean slate, a new playground, but what they don't realize is that the damage they cause leaves echoes. People talk, people compare, people start connecting dots, and once those dots form a picture, the illusion collapses. They can fool some of the people some of the time, but not forever. The friend they triangulated starts asking questions. The coworker they backstabbed starts talking. The new partner they love, bombed, starts seeing the control tactics, the gaslighting, the emotional manipulation. It all unravels, slowly, then all at once. And when it does, the narcissist's biggest fear becomes reality, exposure. That carefully curated image they've built starts falling apart. The lies unravel. The gossip spreads. People they once controlled with charm now see them with clarity. And clarity is the enemy of control. They used to command rooms. Now they walk in and feel the energy shift. People don't laugh as hard, don't trust as easily, don't open up the way they used to, and the narcissist can feel it. It eats at them. Because approval is their drug, and when that supply runs dry, the withdrawal is brutal. So what do? They panic, they lash out, they try harder, they double down on the manipulation, but that just accelerates the downfall. Because desperation is loud, and when people see the cracks, they start remembering things they once ignored. They replay conversations, they notice the red flags, they stop making excuses, and then comes the isolation. The same people who once worshipped them begin to avoid them. The same friends they once charmed begin to pull away. The power dynamic shifts. No more pedestal, no more control, just a mirror, and they hate mirrors. This is the curse to be known, not the version of themselves they project to the world, but the truth, the desperate, insecure, manipulative truth underneath. And once that truth is out, there's no hiding. They become the warning, not the fantasy. The story people tell others to stay safe. You may have left quietly, you may have stayed silent, but the truth has its own momentum. It spreads in whispers. It travels in glances, and even if no one says it out loud, people feel it. They feel the heaviness, the lies, the lack of authenticity, the predator behind the smile. They lose their ability to influence. Their presence no longer inspires, it exhausts. Their charm becomes see-through, their stories sound rehearsed, their manipulation becomes predictable, and the worst part, they know it, they feel the shift. They see the eyes that used to light up around them now filled with caution, and that's a pain they can't sedate. Because once the world sees the truth, there's no turning back. They become exposed, not empowered. Alone, not adored. And for someone who survives off admiration, that's not just uncomfortable. It's spiritual death. You rose, they unraveled, and now their truth walks ahead of them into every room they enter. That's not coincidence, that's consequence. There's a special kind of torment that follows a narcissist after they destroy someone who was pure, loyal, and loving. It's rage, but not just any rage. It's a rage they can't release, can't resolve, and can't outrun. Because that rage, it's no longer about you. It's about the monster they can't stop becoming every time they look in the mirror. See, in the beginning, their rage was directed outward. You were the problem. You were ungrateful, too emotional, too sensitive. They blamed you for everything. And when you finally stood up, walked away, or exposed them, their rage exploded like a volcano, scorching everyone in its path. That's their default mode, destroy and deflect. But over time, the blame stops working because you've moved on, you've healed, you're not engaging, you're not reacting, and suddenly they're screaming at shadows, arguing with ghosts, fighting battles that no one else is in. And that's when the rage turns inward, even if they don't admit it. They rage because you got away. They rage because you healed. They rage because deep down, they know they never broke you the way they wanted to. You bent, yes, but you rose. You cried, yes, but you reclaimed, and every step you take toward your power is another chain tightening around their ego. Their rage becomes a prison. Every memory of you becomes a trigger. Every sign of your success, your peace, your evolution. It doesn't just annoy them, it enrages them, because it reminds them of what they lost, of what they tried to destroy, of what they'll never be able to duplicate. They stew in it. They replay every interaction, every argument, every power move they tried to pull. And what used to be their pride, those twisted victories, they start to see them for what they were: cowardice, weakness, insecurity in disguise. That's a hard truth to live with, so they try to silence it. They drink more, sleep around, obsessively scroll, rage post, isolate, but nothing works, because the fire isn't outside. It's in them now. It's burning from the inside out, and every time they try to project it onto someone else, it just boomerangs back with twice the force. They can't love because love requires peace, and they have none. They can't grow because growth requires humility, and they burned that to the ground, so all that's left is rage, and it eats them, slowly, deeply, relentlessly, because it's not just about what happened, it's about who they've become. They're angry that no one stays, angry that people see through them, angry that their charm stopped working, angry that the narrative has flipped, but the one thing they'll never say out loud, they're angry because they know you were right. You were real and they weren't, and now that rage controls them. It dictates their choices. It poisons their relationships. It burns bridges they'll one day need, and every time they try to build something new, that rage shows up and shatters it, because they haven't made peace with themselves, and the war inside never ends. They live in defense mode, ready to explode, ready to tear someone down just for smiling too bright, speaking too honestly, or standing too confidently, because rage doesn't want company. It wants destruction, and in the end it turns on its master. They thought destroying you would bring peace, but what it really did was unleash the beast inside them. And now they're the ones haunted not by you, but by their inability to be at peace with themselves. That's the curse, to be forever tormented by the very fire they lit. You got your freedom, they got their fury. You sleep peacefully. They sleep with clenched fists and unfinished wars inside their chest. And the saddest part, they could end the cycle, but they won't, because rage is the only feeling they still recognize. And they're too proud to choose healing over hostility. That's not your burden anymore. You escaped the prison. They built theirs brick by brick and locked themselves in. When a narcissist destroys a good soul, they think they've won. They think they've conquered something, silenced something, controlled something. But what they've really done is trigger a slow-motion implosion inside themselves. Because breaking a good soul doesn't set them free, it seals their fate. They walk away thinking they're powerful, that they're untouchable, but they don't realize they've cursed themselves to a lifetime of chasing a high they'll never feel again. curse themselves to be seen for who they really are, mask off, soul exposed, lies unraveling, and curse themselves to battle the rage, isolation, and loneliness they crafted with their own hands. The good soul, you rise, you learn, you evolve, you reclaim, you find love again, in yourself, in life, and in those who see you clearly. You don't stay broken, you build from the breaking, and what was meant to destroy you becomes the foundation for a life 10 times more powerful than anything you had before. But the narcissist, they sink. Slowly, secretly, publicly they pretend they're fine, but behind closed doors they're haunted, haunted by your absence, haunted by their choices, haunted by the reality that no matter how many people they can't fool the mirror. They can't fool their soul, and that's a punishment far worse than anything you could have given them. This is the law of the universe. You cannot poison someone else's garden without eventually drinking from that same poison yourself. Narcissists destroy good souls thinking there's no cost, but there is, and that cost is everything real they could have had, everything deep they could have built, every ounce of peace they will never feel again. Let this be your fire, not for revenge, but for resolve. Let it remind you of your worth. Let it remind you that walking away was not weakness. It was warrior strength. Let it remind you that some people don't deserve access to your light, your love, your loyalty. You didn't lose, you escaped. You didn't break. You broke free. And while they sit in the shadows cursing the emptiness they created, you rise. With clarity, with strength, with a heart that still beats with love, but a spine now forged in steel. You are the blessing they couldn't handle, and now they live under the weight of what they couldn't keep, couldn't control, and couldn't kill. The curses follow them, but you're done carrying anything that isn't yours. Walk on, shine on, and never look back.